Hey guys, it's Jeff. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the newest red flag law to make it through the U.S. House of Representatives last week and what that means to everybody else coming up. Alright guys, welcome back. My name's Jeff. This is the Jeff Tech channel, and I'm trying to get to 10,000 subscribers before the year is out. If you're not a subscriber yet, please consider hitting that subscribe button below. It doesn't cost you anything, and it really helps me out. I'm getting closer and closer every day, so if you could throw me a subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. Like and comments are always welcome. I like to engage, and if I get anything wrong, you know, your feedback is what helps me get better and improve. So with that, I want to get into this video. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the most recent red flag law that's been passed in the United States. And it didn't happen at a state, it happened at the federal level. So what I want to talk about is what this means, what it is, how it's going to impact us, and what we can do. So if you're following social media, you probably heard about the latest red flag law that came out of the House of Representatives. It was embedded in an omnibus bill, a bill that had 1,362 pages. It was the defense spending bill that for fiscal year 2022, and it recently passed in the House of Representatives. It's on its way to the Senate, and it's still not too late to stop it. But I do want to call out what's happening in this bill so you are aware and informed. So if it's something you want to take action upon, at least you have the information. So what happened? Well, they've been talking about this defense spending bill that's been going on in the House of Representatives for several months now, and they finally signed off on it. It's House Bill 4350. It's the defense spending bill for fiscal year 2022. This funds the entire military for the next year, and in this bill, they embedded a piece of legislation or a piece of law that if it passes the Senate and goes to the president will become law, right? So I just want to call it out real quick. It's section 529. Now, 529 is the authority of the military judges and military magistrates to issue military court protective orders, right? Doesn't sound too complicated. It's military judges and military magistrates applying to people who fall under the UCMJ. That's your active duty, your reserves, your National Guardsmen while they're drilling or on active duty. But what does it do? Well, it nationalizes red flag laws. That's the big problem here, right? So red flag laws are something that sprouted up a couple of years ago. They haven't made it to the Supreme Court yet. The Supreme Court hasn't struck them down as unconstitutional. So we still are starting to see more and more of these red flag laws come into existence around the United States. Now, the Department of Defense is solely in the purview of the federal government, but it touches a lot of different areas across the United States. Anywhere there's a military base, anywhere there's military members serving, this law that's being passed right here, if it makes it into law, will impact those areas. Now, how does it impact them? Well, it impacts them because what it's going to do is it's going to be written in a certain way. Now, I'm going to read this to you just so that you understand what it is that they're doing and how toxic this is for local law enforcement across the United States. So this court protective order, the way it's done, section 529, subsection B, enforcement by civilian authorities, right? So court protective orders, no big deal, right? Red flag laws, big deal. So what they're doing is they're taking court protective orders that most people agree to, that, you know, we don't want to, if there's an opportunity to intervene before something negative happens, we want to try to encourage that, right? But not at the expense of somebody's due process laws. So we're not going to arrest people and throw them in jail indefinitely until we find something criminal to charge them with, right? That's not due process. Well, that's what this is doing. This is taking away somebody's rights before they've had an opportunity to hear their accusers, to, you know, present a defense, etc., etc. So I want to read this to you verbatim just so you understand what this says. It says enforcement by a civilian authority. It says, in general, in prescribing regulations for military court protective orders, the president shall seek to ensure that the protective orders are issued in a form and manner that is enforceable by state, local, territorial, and tribal civilian law enforcement authorities. So they're going to write this in a way that no law enforcement can refuse to exercise this law, right? So if this says shall or is required or must, whatever the state language says for a peace officer to enforce, it's going to be written in a way to be enforceable by that jurisdiction, right? So that's the first problem. The second problem is a little bit further down in that same section is it's going to use bribery to try to coerce local law enforcement who may not have red flag laws in their jurisdiction, but it's going to entice them, the sheriffs and the chiefs of police, the mayors, etc., to start exercising or enforcing these red flag laws. Now, I want to read this to you as well, just so you can have it on your radar. It says, reciprocity agreements. Consistent with paragraphs 1 and 2, I just read paragraph 1, the Secretary of Defense shall seek to enter into reciprocity agreements with state, local, territorial, and tribal civilian law enforcement authorities under which A, such authorities agree to enforce the military court protective orders, and B, the Secretary agrees to enforce protective orders issued by such authorities that are consistent with sections 2265B of Title 18. Now, the way I read that, and now I'm no lawyer, I'm just a layman, I'm just trying to understand this like everybody else, but to me what that sounds like is they're going to use bribery. They're going to use reciprocity. They're going to do quid pro quo, tit for tat. Hey, you want an MRAP, an up-armored MRAP for your small SWAT team that you have that's a collateral duty for your patrol officers of 20 police. You want an MRAP, $1 million piece of equipment. We'll give you that MRAP if you'll enforce this if you'll enforce this order in your small town. Now, that's only going to apply to areas that have military bases, right? Wrong. It's going to apply to anywhere there's military stationed. So if you're in a sleepy town in Texas and you have some service members that are living in your town and commuting to a town next door to go to their place of duty, you're going to be able to have this court protective order that's written by a court magistrate or a military magistrate entered onto your desk for enforcement. Now you have to decide, are you going to enforce it or not? Now the Secretary of Defense is calling you saying, hey, we'll give you $1 million piece of equipment. Those night vision goggles you wanted your guys to have, those AR-15s you've been looking at that have fully automatic switch on them, we'll give you those if you'll start enforcing these red flag laws that we have in your jurisdiction. We have a couple of guys we need you to go pick up. Those chiefs of police are not dumb. They're going to consider it, right? Especially if they're being protected by their mayors or their city councils in their area. So anyway, I think it's a problem. I don't think it's too late to stop it, but I do want to bring this to your attention. I think this is some of the backstory. You've probably seen the list like I have from some of these other influencers about all of the Republicans that voted to support red flag laws. Well, this is some of the nuance behind that. So with that, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. I think this is a bad law. I think it's a bad section of this bill. I think we can still have influence in the Senate. So contact your senators if you find this bill to be morally objectionable, and let them know that you don't support this and you want this removed before you allow them, or before you would agree to them signing off on this. Let's get this out of there. It's a bad section in this bill. We know defense spending is important, but this is not. So let them know. GOA has a form letter you can fill out. You can find your senators. I'll have a link in the description below. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. I think it's a lot of information. It's not the funnest information, but if you made it this far, I appreciate it. So with that, stay safe, stay vigilant, stay active, stay in the fight, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.